Ever had that feeling where you just know something bad is about to happen? Yeah, that gut-wrenching sensation that sends chills down your spine. I got that one night. It was an ordinary night like any other. I was home alone, just me and the silence of the house. But that silence, it didn't stay for long. You see, I'm not one to believe in the supernatural. Ghosts, ghouls, things that go bump in the night? Nah, not for me. But this night, it was different. The stillness of the house was broken by this sound. It wasn't loud, but it was there. A slight scratching, like something clawing at the walls, trying to get in or maybe out. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just the house settling in. You know how old houses have their quirks, right? But the sound didn't stop. It kept on, persistent, almost rhythmic. It was like it was calling out to me, beckoning me to come closer. But the thing is, the more I heard it, the more this sense of dread washed over me. I couldn't shake off the feeling. It clung to me like a second skin. The air around me felt heavy, like something was pressing down on me. My heartbeat quickened, my palms got sweaty. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, just the silence playing tricks on my mind. But the noises, they didn't stop. They grew louder, more insistent. I could feel them reverberating through the house, echoing in the silence. It was as if the house itself was alive, breathing, pulsating with an energy I couldn't understand. I tried to shrug it off, but those sounds, they were just too real. I decided to investigate. Worst decision of my life. Curiosity got the better of me, it always does. I followed the noise like a moth drawn to a flame. It led me through my own house, a place I thought I knew like the back of my hand. But that night it felt different, alien, as if I was a visitor in my own home. The sound led me to a door I had never seen before. It was hidden in plain sight behind a bookshelf in my study. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I pushed the bookshelf aside. How could a room exist in my house that I had no knowledge of? The door creaked open, revealing a room that was as cold as a winter's night. The air was heavy, the silence deafening. The room was shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the hallway behind me. The gloom seemed to swallow the light, creating an eerie silhouette of things I couldn't fully make out. As I stepped inside, the chill of the room seeped into my bones. My breath fogged up in the icy air, my heart pounded in my chest like a drum. I fumbled around, my hands met with objects that were worn and old. A sense of unease filled me as I touched these things, personal belongings, but not mine. There were clothes that reeked of time, old and moth-eaten. A pair of glasses, the lenses cracked, and the frame tarnished. A diary, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. The ink had faded, but the words were filled with dread and despair. Each item told a story that I wasn't part of, a story that didn't belong in my house. I felt an unsettling presence, as if the room and its forgotten belongings were whispering secrets that were not meant for me. My mind raced with questions. Who did these items belong to? Why were they hidden in this room? And the most chilling question of all, how did I not know about this room in my own house? I stood there frozen, wondering how I never knew about this room. And then it happened. Something I'll never be able to explain. I was alone in the room, or at least I thought I was. Suddenly I felt a cold rush of air on the back of my neck. It was like someone had left a window open in the middle of winter, but there were no windows in that room. Just four walls, a door, and me. Then the whispers started. At first they were soft, like the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but soon they grew louder, more distinct. It was as if someone was standing right behind me, whispering into my ear. I turned around, but there was nothing there, just the empty room. Yet the whispers persisted. They seemed to be coming from all directions at once. And then, in the midst of the whispers, I heard my name. Clear as day, it echoed in the room. The temperature dropped even further. I could see my breath in front of me, forming small clouds of condensation in the air. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. My name over and over again. I wanted to run, but my feet felt like they were glued to the floor. The whispers were all around me now, swirling like a tempest. I was in the eye of the storm, and there was no escape. The fear was paralyzing, like a heavy weight pressing against my chest. I don't know what finally gave me the strength to move, but I managed to tear myself away from the spot. I bolted towards the door, flinging it open and sprinting down the hallway. But even as I ran, I could still hear the whispers. They followed me, echoing in my mind. They were a haunting reminder of the terrifying presence I had encountered. I bolted from the room, but I could still hear the whispers. Their chilling echoes were a reminder that whatever was in that room was still there, waiting. And I knew deep down that it would always be there, waiting, whispering. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. My relief was short-lived. The noises, those whispers that had me looking over my shoulder, they didn't stop. Not even when I stepped outside the confines of that cursed house. It was as if the haunting had seeped into me, latched onto my very soul. The whispers followed me, like an echo bouncing off the walls of my mind. They were inaudible, just beneath the surface of my consciousness, but I knew they were there, always there. They were not loud enough to make out words, but their existence was a constant reminder of the terror that had gripped me. I could feel their presence, like a cold breeze on a warm day, raising the hairs on the back of my neck. I wasn't just hearing things either. I felt watched, like a deer caught in the spotlight, hunted. The feeling was ever present, a constant companion. Every rustle of the leaves, every creak of a floorboard, every gust of wind that shook the windows, it all seemed to carry a sinister undertone. I was never alone. The feeling was always there, lurking in the corners of my thoughts, a shadow in my peripheral vision. It wasn't just in the house, it followed me. I'd catch glimpses of something out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned, there was nothing. A chill would run down my spine, a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature. A sense of dread would wash over me, leaving me cold and shaking. The world around me felt wrong, distorted as if viewed through a warped glass. Nighttime was the worst. The darkness seemed to amplify everything. The whispers grew louder, the feeling of being watched more intense. I'd lay in bed, eyes wide open, heart pounding in my chest, waiting for the dawn to break. Sleep was a distant memory, replaced by fear and anxiety. I was living in a nightmare and there was no escape. My life had become a horror show, a terrifying loop of fear and paranoia. The haunting didn't stop, it continued, relentless and terrifying. I never found out what was happening, and that's the worst part. You know, after everything that happened, I finally moved out of that house. The decision wasn't easy. It was the place I called home after all, but every corner, every room was now tainted with an unspeakable dread. I just couldn't stand it anymore. The day I left, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I remember the relief washing over me as I drove away, leaving behind the horrors that had tormented me. But you know what they say, right? You can leave the haunted house, but the haunting, it doesn't always leave you, and that's precisely what happened. I moved to a new place, miles away from that old house, thinking I'd left my problems behind, but the mystery, the unanswered questions, they followed me like a shadow, lurking at the back of my mind, refusing to be ignored. Who was the presence in the house? Why was it there? What did it want from me? These questions haunted my thoughts, more terrifying than any ghost could ever be. I'd lie awake at night, the silence of my new home echoing around me, my mind racing with these unanswered questions. Even now, I sometimes feel a chill running down my spine, a sense of dread that makes my heart pound in my chest. I look around, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the corner, or hear that eerie whisper in my ear. But there's nothing. Just the deafening silence and the nagging feeling of unease. And so, I live my life in this constant state of anxiety, always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for something to happen. But nothing ever does. And that's what's truly terrifying. The not knowing, the waiting, the wondering. I still hear the whispers sometimes in the dead of the night, and I can't help but wonder, what was in that room?